The citadel of Sylthar towered like a living grove above the emerald expanse of Chloris, its spires of bioluminescent vines weaving into the misty air of a planet alive with verdant energy. The triple suns cast a golden-green glow, their light filtering through a canopy of pulsating fronds that sang with a faint, rhythmic pulse. Within the citadel's verdant halls, 19-cycle-old Sylis of Grove Vireth glided through the shadows, her jade-green skin shimmering with delicate leaf-like patterns that shifted with her emotions. Another cycle of rites and stillness, she murmured, her amber eyes narrowing as she peered through a lattice of glowing vines. Beyond the citadel stretched the Verdant Rift, a forbidden jungle of sentient flora and pulsing energy nodes, rumored to hold the secrets of Chloris's ancient shapers. Sylis's heart thrummed with the urge to feel its pulse for herself. Her tendril-like fingers traced the woven band of bioluminescent fibers around her wrist, etched with the spiraling sigils of Grove Vireth, Chloris's ruling lineage. At 19 cycles, she was old enough to train as a pulseweaver, a guardian of the planet's symbiotic energies, but too young to venture beyond the citadel without escort. "Just one touch," she whispered, her moss-like hair streaked with gold swaying gently as she leaned closer to the lattice. Decision made, she draped a muted cloak of woven fronds over her ceremonial garb and slipped into the citadel's root tunnels, secret passages she'd mapped during years of quiet rebellion. The sentinels, distracted by the nightly hymns, missed the lithe figure vanishing into the green. The verdant rift greeted her with a surge of humid air, its towering ferns and glowing vines humming softly, their pulses syncing with her own. The ground thrummed beneath her bare feet and strange, luminescent spores floated around her, drawn to her presence. Sylis moved deeper, entranced by the vibrant beauty of the untamed jungle. Hours slipped away unnoticed until the suns began their descent, casting dappled shadows across the verdant terrain. A sudden tremor shook the ground, and Sylis froze as a deep, guttural pulse echoed through the rift. From behind a massive fern emerged a sleek, predatory form, its body a lattice of thorn vines that pulsed with a menacing rhythm. A Thornwraith, Chloris's deadliest predator, its 6 glowing eyes locked onto her, its form vibrating with predatory intent. Sylis's breath caught, her hand reaching for the small pulse dagger at her belt, its vibrations feeble against such a creature. The Thornwraith surged forward, its thorn tendrils lashing the air. Sylis dove aside, her cloak tearing as a tendril grazed her arm, leaving a stinging cut that oozed golden sap. A sharp cry shattered the silence, raw and defiant, not her own. A wiry figure vaulted over a glowing root, wielding a scavenged staff that pulsed with stolen energy spores. Their emerald skin, marked with faint silver veins, shimmered under the suns, and their short, fern-like hair whipped as they charged. "Stay back." The stranger barked, their voice sharp but steady. Sylis glimpsed angular features and piercing citrine eyes alight with resolve. The Thornwraith keened, redirecting its fury toward the newcomer. The stranger dodged with uncanny precision, thrusting their staff into the creature's flank where the spores sparked violently against its thorn hide. The beast screeched, its tendrils snapping close to the stranger's shoulder. Sylis watched, heart pounding, as golden sap, not the same hue as her own, spilled onto the ferns. "Move," the stranger yelled, pain lacing their voice as they drove the staff deeper, forcing the beast to recoil. Sylis snapped out of her shock, grabbing a loose crystal shard and hurling it at the creature's eyes. It roared, momentarily disoriented, giving the stranger time to pull free. Together, they sprinted toward the citadel's distant glow, the Thornwraith's pulsing tendrils thrashing behind. As they neared the outer wards, Sylis's sharp hum activated the defense drones, their energy pulses driving the beast back into the rift with a final, frustrated wail. Safe within the citadel's perimeter, Sylis turned to her rescuer. The stranger leaned against a vine-wrapped pillar, golden sap seeping from a deep gash on their shoulder. Their citrine eyes, fierce despite the pain, met hers with unyielding determination. "You're hurt," Sylis said, her voice tight with concern as she stepped closer. "Had worse," the stranger rasped, though their grimace betrayed the effort to stand. "How did you know I'm of Grove Vireth?" Sylis asked, nodding their lack of surprise at her jade skin and sigiled band. The stranger's lips quirked in a faint smirk, pushing back their hood to reveal a weathered face marked with silver veins. Glowing skin, Vireth sigils, not many wander the rift dressed like a Grove heir. Before Sylis could respond, the citadel guards approached, their pulse staves humming with readiness. Their leader, Captain Urava, eyed the stranger with suspicion. "Lady Sylis, you were expected at the pulse rite. Who is this outsider?" "They saved my life," Sylis declared, her stance defiant. "They fought a Thornwraith with nothing but a scavenged staff." The guards exchanged wary glances, uncertain how to handle an outsider who had protected their Grove's heir. "Your name, stranger?" Urava demanded. "Xyren," they replied, wincing as they pressed a tendril to their wound. "Just Xyren." "They need a healer," Sylis insisted, "and my mother must hear of this." Urava hesitated, then nodded. "To the citadel, then, both of you." As they moved through Sylthara's verdant streets, Sylis noticed Xyren's sharp gaze taking in the vine spires and humming drones with a mix of awe and caution. Despite their injury, there was a quiet resilience in their posture that intrigued her. "Where's your kin?" she asked softly. Xyren's jaw tightened, their silver veins pulsing faintly. "Gone. Pod crashed 6 cycles back, been surviving in the rift since." A crash, you're not of Chloris's core groves, Driftborn, Xyren said with a dry chuckle. From the outer spores, not your fancy citadel groves. Our pod was a scout vessel. I was the only one who didn't wither. Sylis's amber eyes softened. 6 cycles alone in the rift. You adapt or your mulch, Xyren said, their tone clipped but not unkind. Chapter 2, The Verdant's Verdict. The Citadel's grand chamber loomed ahead, its walls woven with living vines that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Verdant Lyra, ruler of Chloris, stood at the chamber's heart, her towering form clad in robes of woven fronds that shimmered like liquid emerald, her jade scales glinting under the verdant chandeliers. Her piercing gaze fell on Sylis, softening briefly before hardening on Xyren. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the chamber's pulse fonts. Sylis stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Mother, this Driftborn saved me from a Thornwraith. They fought with nothing but a scavenged staff. Lyra's eyes narrowed, studying Xyren's emerald skin and oozing shoulder. And why, daughter, were you in the Verdant Rift, defying my command? Sylis's scales flushed a deeper jade. I wanted to feel the rift's pulse for myself. It was reckless, I know. Reckless is generous, Lyra said, her voice like the rustle of leaves. Her gaze shifted to Xyren, who stood unbowed despite their injury. You Driftborn, you faced a Thornwraith with a mere stick, foolish or fearless. Bit of both, I'd say, Xyren replied, their citrine eyes meeting Lyra's without flinching. Couldn't let your daughter get mulched. A murmur rippled through the gathered Grove elders. The Driftborn's directness was unheard of in the Verdant's presence. Not many would risk their life for a stranger, Lyra said, her tone unreadable. Your name and origin, Xyren. Parents were scouts Vera and Taran of the Outer Spores. Our pod crashed in the rift 6 cycles ago. I'm the only survivor. Lyra's tendrils twitched, a rare sign of surprise. The Driftborn vessel in the western routes, we found only fragments. Got good at hiding, Xyren said simply. Had to. The Verdant circled Xyren, her robes rustling like a breeze. You're wounded, she noted, eyeing the sap seeping through Xyren's leathers. Nothing I can't handle, Xyren said, though their knees buckled slightly. Mother, Sylis interjected, they need a healer. Lyra signaled a medic who approached with a handheld pulse mender. Xyren tensed, their tendril hovering near a concealed blade at their hip. It's safe, Sylis assured, her voice softer than intended. They'll mend you. Xyren nodded curtly, allowing the medic to scan their wound. The device hummed, projecting a lattice of light over the gash. The wraith's venom is potent, the medic reported, but this Driftborn sap is remarkable. It's countering the toxins naturally. Built up a tolerance, Xyren explained, grimacing as the pulse mender sealed their wound. Wraith scratches aren't rare out there. Lyra's gaze sharpened with interest. You've exposed yourself to Chloris's deadliest venom intentionally. Survive or wither, Xyren said. My parents' words. The Verdant turned away, her robes shimmering as she paced. The elders watched in silence, awaiting her verdict. Finally, she faced Xyren again. What do you seek now, Driftborn of the Rift? Xyren shrugged their uninjured shoulder. Back to the ferns, I suppose. It's home. And if I offered another path, Lyra's voice carried a weight that silenced the chamber. Sylis's breath caught. Her mother couldn't mean what path, Xyren asked, their tone wary. You saved my daughter at great risk. You've survived Chloris's harshest terrain for 6 cycles, a feat few of our warriors could match. Such resilience deserves more than a scavenger's life. Lyra's voice echoed through the chamber. I offer you a place in Grove Vireth as my ward to be raised alongside Sylis. Gasps rippled through the elders. Sylis felt her heart leap, though she couldn't name why. Verdant, an elder protested, a Driftborn in Grove Vireth. It's unprecedented. Unprecedented until now, Lyra countered sharply. Courage and survival are the heart of our grove. This Driftborn embodies both. The elder bowed, silenced. Lyra turned to Xyren. The choice is yours, Xyren of the Outer Spores. Xyren's citrine eyes flicked to Sylis, who stood with barely concealed hope. For a moment, vulnerability flickered across their face. Why me? They asked quietly. Lyra's stern features softened. Because you've proven your worth, because Chloris needs those who defy the odds, and because no sprout should wander alone. Xyren's jaw tightened, their gaze dropping. I'll take your offer, Verdant. Lyra placed a tendril on Xyren's shoulder, careful of their wound. Then you are Xyren Vireth, ward of Grove Vireth and heir to our ways. Sylis surged forward, her moss-like hair catching the light. You're one of us now, she exclaimed, then caught herself, grinning sheepishly. I mean welcome, Xyren's lips quirked in a faint smile. Guess I'm stuck with you, defies. Details, Sylis teased. I'll show you the archives, the training groves, the pulse caves. First, Lyra interrupted, Xyren heals, then you may explore together. As the elders dispersed, whispering of the unprecedented decision, Lyra led Sylis and Zeryn to the Grove's private quarters. Zeryn's steps grew steadier, as if the weight of their new reality was settling in. You won't regret this, Verdant, Xyren said softly. I know, Lyra replied, and in private you may call me Mother. Zeryn's composure faltered, their citrine eyes glistening briefly. Thank you, Mother. Chapter 3, Bonds forged in pulse. The training groves hummed with the clash of pulse blades and the rhythm of controlled energy. 2 figures danced across the verdant arena, their movements a blur of precision. One, lean and emerald with silver veins, wielded a blade with fluid grace. The other, a jade-skinned warrior with moss-like hair, countered with calculated ferocity, her movements fluid like the rift's pulse. You're slowing down, Sylis, Zeryn teased, their voice carrying a playful edge as they parried a strike. Slowing, Sylis's amber eyes gleamed as she spun, her blade grazing Zeryn's side. Or luring you into a trap, they froze, blades crossed, sharing a grin. At 27, Grove Vireth had grown into a formidable fighter, their Driftborn agility honed by Chloris's brutal training. The silver veins across their skin, now etched with Vireth sigils, marked their place among the grove. Sylis, now 29, was a vision of lethal elegance, her jade scales shimmering brighter with each cycle, her presence commanding respect across Chloris. I concede, Zeryn said, stepping back with a mock salute. You win this round. 2-1, Sylis said, deactivating her blade. You owe me a starbloom sap. They left the grove, their banter light but their steps in sync, a bond forged through years of shared challenges. They were grove mates, yet the air between them pulsed with something unspoken, a tension neither dared name. The Pulse Festival starts tomorrow, Sylis said, wiping sap from her brow. Mother expects us at the opening rites. Bound to be a spectacle, Xyren replied, their citrine eyes scanning the citadel's spires, though I'll probably spend it dodging betrothal offers from the lesser groves. Sylis's laugh was sharp. Poor Xyren, Chloris's most coveted Driftborn, chased by every grove with an eligible heir. You're not exactly free of suitors, Xyren shot back. How many proposals has Lyra rejected this cycle? 18, Sylis admitted, her scales flickering in irritation, each one more pompous than the last. They walked in companionable silence through the citadel's verdant corridors, the hum of pulse conduits a constant backdrop. Some elders still cast wary glances at Xyren, the Driftborn among scales, but most had come to respect their skill and loyalty. Do you ever think about it? Sylis asked as they entered the Pulse Gardens, where luminescent spores pulsed softly. Settling down, building a life, Xyren's step hesitated. Sometimes, they admitted, sitting on a carved bench beneath a glowing fern. But it's not simple, because you're Driftborn, mostly. Xyren's veins shimmered faintly. Not many like me in the core groves to choose from. Sylis settled beside them, her scales brushing their arm. If there were, would you pick one of your own? The question hung heavy, charged with meaning. Xyren's citrine eyes met hers, searching. I've lived more as a Vireth than a Driftborn, they said. This is my home now, but choosing it's complicated. Sylis's tendril rested lightly on theirs, her jade scales stark against their emerald skin. You're not an outsider to me, Xyren, your family. Xyren's breath caught, their gaze lingering on her angular features, the way the starlight danced across her scales. Sylis, Lady Sylis, Xyren Vireth, a drone buzzed into the garden, its voice metallic but urgent. Verdant Lyra summons you to the council chamber. The moment broke. Xyren stood, their expression shifting to the cool focus of a warrior. What's this about? A delegation from the Xyren Syndicate has arrived, the drone intoned. Unannounced, Sylis's posture stiffened. The Xyren. They've avoided Chloris for centuries. Better not keep Lyra waiting, Xyren said, already moving. Sylis caught their arm, her voice low. We'll finish this talk later. Xyren nodded, a spark in their eyes. Count on it. Chapter 4. The Xyren Deception. The council chamber thrummed with unease. Verdant Lyra sat atop her vine-woven throne, her jade scales glinting like emeralds as she faced three sleek figures cloaked in shimmering black. The Xyren delegates' faceted eyes gleamed like polished onyx, their movements unnervingly fluid as if their forms were woven from shadow. As Sylis and Zeryn entered, the Xyren turned, their gazes lingering on Xyren's Driftborn form with unsettling curiosity. My children, Lyra said, her voice calm but edged with steel. Envoy Valthar, meet Sylis and Zeryn of Grove Vireth. Valthar bowed, their black cloak rippling. Sylis, your valor is known. Erin, the Driftborn ward, your tale intrigues us. Xyren returned a curt nod. Chloris welcomes the Xyren Syndicate. Valthar's faceted eyes glinted. We bring grave tidings for all worlds in this quadrant, including your verdant haven. Lyra gestured for them to sit. Envoy Valthar speaks of a growing threat from the Sylthar swarm in the Nebula of Thorns. Xyren's posture stiffened. The Sylthar, biomechanical horrors that consumed entire systems, were legends whispered to terrify sprouts. Their hive fleets left nothing but withered husks in their wake. They've overrun the Verdant Bastion, Valthar said, their voice a low hum. 8 systems are lost. Our scans predict they'll reach Chloris within 4 cycles. 4 cycles, Sylis's scales flickered. That's barely time to rally our defenses. The Syndicate offers an alliance, Valthar said. Our combined technologies could repel the Sylthar. And the cost? Xyren asked, their tone sharp, earning a flicker of irritation from a Xyren aide. Valthar's cloak shimmered. A perceptive question, Driftborn, all alliances have terms. As the talks continued, Sylis's tendril found Xyren's under the table, a silent anchor amid the rising tension. The Sylthar loomed, but the Xyren's motives felt like a shadow waiting to strike. Chapter 5. The price of pulse. The council chamber's tension spilled into the private quarters of Grove Vireth, where Xyren paced like a caged Thornwraith, their silver-veined tendrils clenched into fists. You can't be considering this, Mother, they snapped, their voice echoing off the vine walls. Lyra remained impassive, her jade scales catching the light of a nearby pulse font. The Xyren proposal offers protection for our people, Xyren, at a cost, yes, but survival demands sacrifice. Sacrifice? Xyren's citrine eyes blazed. They want Sylis to bond with their overlord's heir to seal the alliance. That's not diplomacy, it's extortion. Sylis, who had been silent, finally spoke, her voice steady but laced with turmoil. What are the exact terms, Envoy Valthar? The Xyren envoy standing near the chamber's entrance inclined their head. Lady Sylis would bond with Overlord Xyr's heir Taran. The ceremony would occur before the next solar alignment in 10 days. 10 days, Xyren's voice dripped with incredulity. That's barely time to prepare, let alone think. The Sylthar do not wait, Valthar replied coldly. Each moment brings them closer. Sylis rose, her jade scales glinting with resolve. I'd like to speak with my mother and Zeryn alone, envoy. Valthar bowed, their faceted eyes lingering on Zeryn with calculation. Of course, Lady Sylis, we await your Grove's decision. When the chamber doors closed, Sylis's composure wavered. Mother, there has to be another way, Lyra sighed, her delicate frame sagging. The Xyren possess pulse-shielding technology far beyond ours. It could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. And you trust them? Zeryn asked, their instincts screaming warnings. This feels wrong, your Driftborn intuition. Lyra asked, not unkindly. Call it what you want, Zeryn said. The timing's too perfect. The Sylthar threat appears, and suddenly the Xyren show up with a convenient solution that chains Sylis to their overlord. Sylis moved to Zeryn's side, her tendril brushing their arm. I share Zeryn's doubts, Mother. Why now after centuries of silence? Why the rush for a bonding? Lyra studied them, her gaze thoughtful. Your concerns are valid, yet we cannot ignore the Sylthar threat. If the Xyren speak truly, then let me investigate, Zeryn cut in. Give me 2 days to reach the old stellar array in the Thorn Spires. It can detect Sylthar signatures if they're as close as the Xyren claim. Lyra nodded slowly. A prudent step. You have 2 days. We'll stall the Xyren without committing. As they left the chamber, Sylis pulled Zeryn into a shadowed alcove, her amber eyes fierce. I'm not bonding with Taran, she said, her voice low and resolute. Not when I've finally admitted what I want. Zeryn's heart pulsed faster. Sylis, we shouldn't what? She challenged, her tendril tracing their jaw. Pretend we're just Grove mates. We've never been just that, Zeryn. Not truly. Zeryn swallowed, caught in the intensity of her gaze. Politics, duty, the Grove. If you expose the Xyren, there's no need for their alliance, Sylis said. We find another way to stop the Sylthar. Zeryn wanted to pull her close, to confess the feelings they'd buried for years. Instead, they focused on the mission. I leave at dawn for the array. If I can prove the Xyren are lying, then what? Sylis's voice softened, her scales brushing their hand. What changes for us? Zeryn took a steadying breath. Everything. Chapter 6. Whispers in the Rift. That night, sleep eluded Zeryn. They wandered the Pulse Gardens, the triple sun's golden-green light filtering through the luminescent ferns, casting a kaleidoscope of patterns across their emerald skin. The air was thick with the scent of sap and starbloom, a reminder of the vibrant world they'd fought to call home. Troubled thoughts. Grove Vireth. A sleek figure emerged from the shadows, Envoy Valthar, their black cloak glinting like polished obsidian, their faceted eyes gleaming with calculation. Zeryn tensed, their tendril hovering near their pulse blade. Envoy, late for a stroll. Indeed, Valthar said, gliding closer, their movements fluid as if woven from shadow. Yet the truest words are often spoken in darkness. I've noted your concern over Lady Sylis's proposed bonding. Perhaps we could explore another arrangement. Zeryn's silver veins pulsed with suspicion. What kind of arrangement? One that benefits all, Valthar said, their voice a low hum like a distant storm. The Xyren have studied Driftborn, your adaptability, your resilience. These traits could counter the Sylthar. A few samples of your sap could spare Sylis's sacrifice. Zeryn's core chilled, their citrine eyes narrowing. Samples? Nothing invasive, Valthar said, their eyes glinting. Sap tissue, perhaps genetic spores. Your survival of Thornwraith venom suggests unique properties we could harness. And if I refuse? Zeryn asked, their tone sharp as a thorn. Valthar's cloak rippled. Then Sylis bonds with Taran, and Chloris gains our protection, such as it is. The threat was clear. You speak like your help comes with thorns. All things have a price, Valthar said, bowing slightly. Consider our offer. We depart in 2 days. As Valthar melted into the shadows, Zeryn's mind raced. The Xyren's motives were as tangled as the Rift's vines, their offer a trap disguised as salvation. The stellar array in the Thorn Spires was their only chance to uncover the truth. First, they needed to see Sylis. Zeryn slipped into Sylis's chambers, the glow of luminescent flora casting soft light across the room. She stood in a simple tunic of woven fronds, her jade scales shimmering like polished emeralds, her moss-like hair loose around her shoulders, streaked with gold. I felt your pulse, she said softly, her amber eyes meeting theirs. Always have since we were sprouts. I'm leaving at dawn, Zeryn said, their voice rough with urgency. The array, but Valthar approached me. They want my sap for weapons research, claimed it could replace your bonding. Sylis's scales darkened with anger, her leaf-like patterns swirling. They're not here for an alliance, they want something from us, both of us. All the more reason to reach the array, Zeryn said. If I can prove the Sylthar threat isn't what they say, you're not going alone, Sylis interrupted, her posture resolute. We go together. Your mother won't know until we're back with proof, she said, her gaze unwavering. 7 cycles ago, you risked everything for me. Let me stand with you now. Zeryn hesitated, the weight of their bond pressing against years of restraint. Sylis, if we do this, I'm done hiding, she said, stepping closer, her scent like sap and starbloom. Aren't you tired of pretending we're just Grove mates? Zeryn's resolve crumbled. They pulled her close, their lips meeting hers in a tentative kiss that bloomed into something fierce. Her scales were cool, a stark contrast to their warmer emerald skin, creating a pulse that felt like Chloris itself. When they parted, Sylis's scales glowed faintly, the Chlorisian flush of emotion. I've wanted this for cycles, Zeryn admitted, their voice hoarse. Then why wait? Sylis asked, her tendrils tangling in their fern-like hair. Duty, fear, the Grove's expectations. Zeryn's tendrils traced her scales, but none of that matters now. The night unfolded in a dance of discovery, their differences, Coreborn and Driftborn, melting into a shared passion. Afterward, they lay entwined, Sylis's head on Zeryn's chest, their tendrils tracing the sigils on her scales. This changes everything, Sylis murmured, her voice a soft hum. It means we fight for us, Xyren said. No Xyren, no Sylthar, no politics will take that away. As dawn broke, they prepared to depart, packing light for speed. Meet me at the northern route tunnel, Xyren said, pulling on their combat leathers woven from reinforced fronds. We'll use the tunnels to avoid the Xyren. Be careful, Sylis said, her amber eyes fierce. They'll be watching. Let them, Xyren replied, their voice grim. They'll feel what happens when you threaten a Vireth. Chapter 7. The Thorn Spire's Truth. Xyren and Sylis emerged from the root tunnel into the Verdant Rift, the triple sun's light casting a golden-green haze across the towering ferns and poolsing vines. The Thorn Spires loomed 3 hours ahead, their jagged silhouettes thrumming with faint harmonics that resonated with Sylis's pulseweaver instincts. The air vibrated with latent energy, and the spores swirling around them pulsed in time with their steps, as if sensing their purpose. We're exposed out here, Xyren said, their citrine eyes scanning the horizon. Their pulse blade hummed softly at their side, its glow a stark contrast to their emerald skin and silver veins. The Xyren won't let us reach the spires unchallenged. Sylis's jade scales flickered with determination. Then we move fast. The stellar array will tell us if the Sylthar are as close as they claim. They navigated the rift with practiced ease, Xyren's driftborn instincts blending seamlessly with Sylis's innate connection to Chloris's energies. The vines around them sang softly, their pulses guiding their path like a living map. Their newly forged bond sharpened their coordination, each step a silent vow to protect the other. Last night, Sylis said during a brief pause behind a massive fern, her voice soft but steady. It was like feeling a pulse I'd always known but never dared follow. Xyren's lips curved in a rare, unguarded smile, their tendril brushing a golden streak in her hair. In the outer spores, we'd call it a root bond, two souls from different groves entwined by something stronger than sap. Root bond, Sylis echoed, her amber eyes warm. I like it, even if one's core-born and one's driftborn. Especially then, Xyren said, stealing a quick kiss. The contact sent a pulse through Sylis's scales, a faint glow betraying her emotions. But the mission pulled them onward, the spire's promise of truth outweighing the moment's warmth. A distant hum broke the silence, a Xyren shuttle arcing toward the spires, its black hull glinting like a predator's eye. They're ahead of us, Xyren said, their jaw tightening. We need to move. They pushed through the rift, dodging energy nodes and scaling ferns with agile precision. The thorn spires rose before them, the ancient stellar array's dome half buried in crystalline vines. The pulse field's down, Sylis whispered, her posture stiffening. The Xyren have been here. Xyren drew their pulse blade, its green glow casting eerie shadows as they entered the dome. Inside, Xyren technology was grafted onto Chlorisian systems, a sleek crystalline device pulsing at the center like a malevolent heart. A pulse beacon, Sylis said, her pulseweaver training recognizing the tech. They're not just signaling the Sylthar, they're guiding them to Chloris. Xyren activated the array, its holographic display flickering to life. The data hit like a Thornwraith sting. The Sylthar aren't 4 cycles away, they said, their voice tight. They're 1 cycle out. The Xyren have been steering them here for months. Sylis's tendrils danced over the controls, her scales glowing faintly with focus. And look, there's a driftborn vessel at the system's edge. The Xyren are intercepting it, blocking its distress signals. Xyren's core clenched, their emerald skin paling. They're after Driftborn too. My parents' pod wasn't the last. They're hunting us for something. A cold laugh echoed from the dome's entrance. Perceptive for a scavenger, Valthar said, flanked by 4 Xyren guards, their black armor glinting ominously. Their faceted eyes gleamed with calculation, fixed on Xyren. Your sap is a prize, Driftborn and Lady Sylis's Vireth lineage. A treasure for our archives. You won't touch her, Xyren growled, stepping in front of Sylis, their blade raised. Valthar's cloak rippled. Your defiance is admirable but futile. The Sylthar will arrive and Chloris will wither unless you cooperate. Sylis's voice cut through the tension, sharp and resonant. You've miscalculated, Valthar. This array is ours. She activated a hidden subroutine and the dome's ancient defenses hummed to life, emitting a disorienting pulse that staggered the Xyren guards. Xyren seized the moment, charging forward. Their blades sliced through a guard's weapon, sparks flying as they ducked to counterstrike. Sylis accessed the beacon's controls, her tendrils ablur as she reversed its signal, redirecting the Sylthar toward the Xyren fleet in the nebula of thorns. Done, she shouted, her scales blazing with light. They're hunting your ships now, Valthar snarled, raising a sleek plasma pistol. Xyren flung a vial of their sap laced with Thornwraith venom antibodies at the envoy. Liquid passed through Valthar's shield, sizzling against their crystalline skin. They collapsed, writhing in agony. Unique sap, Xyren said coldly. Should have asked nicely. Sylis activated the array's communicator. Mother, the Sylthar are redirected. We have Valthar and proof of Xyren treachery. Well done, Lyra's voice crackled through the static. Return home, the Xyren delegation is detained. As they secured the guards and downloaded the array's data, Xyren stared at the display showing the Driftborn vessel. My kin, they said softly, their voice heavy with unspoken questions. Sylis took their tendril, her scales cool against their warmth. Are you rethinking us? Never, Xyren said, pulling her close. But this means there's more to my roots than I knew, and I need answers. Chapter 8. Shadows of the Grove. The journey back to Sylvara was tense, the Verdant Rift's pulse is now a warning rather than a song. Sylis and Zeryn moved swiftly, their captured data stored in a pulse crystal strapped to Zeryn's belt. The Xyren shuttle had vanished, likely retreating to their fleet, but the threat of pursuit lingered. Back in the citadel, the council chamber buzzed with restrained chaos. Verdant Lyra stood at its center, her jade scales glinting as she reviewed the data Sylis and Zeryn presented. The Xyren delegation, now confined to guarded quarters, had been replaced by a hologram of their overlord, Xyre, his faceted eyes blazing with barely contained fury. "You accuse us of treachery." Xyre's voice resonated through the chamber, sharp as a thorn. "The Sylthar are a mutual threat. Your actions have doomed us all." Zeryn stepped forward, their citrine eyes unyielding. "Your beacon was guiding the Sylthar to Chloris, not away. We have the logs. You plan to sacrifice our world for your gain." Sylis' voice joined Zeryn's, steady and clear. "And you've been intercepting a Driftborn vessel. Well, what do you want with our kin?" Xyre's hologram flickered, a sign of agitation. "Driftborn vessel is incidental. Our interest lies in Chloris's pulse technology. Your pulse weavers could tip the balance against the Sylthar." "Then why the bonding demand?" Sylis pressed, her scales flaring. "Why target me? A union with Taran would ensure cooperation," Xyre said smoothly, a gesture of unity. "Unity doesn't involve betrayal," Zeryn snapped. "You wanted Sylis' leverage in my sap for your experiments. What's the real goal?" Lyra raised a tendril, silencing the room. "Enough, the Xyren will answer for their actions. The Driftborn vessel will be contacted, and we will prepare for the Sylthar's approach without your alliance." Xyre's hologram vanished abruptly, leaving a tense silence. Lyra turned to Sylis and Zeryn. "You've uncovered a grave conspiracy, but the Sylthar are still coming. We have one cycle to prepare." As the council dispersed, Lyra pulled Sylis and Zeryn aside. "The Driftborn vessel intrigues me," she said softly. "Zeryn, your survival suggests a connection we don't yet understand. I've authorized a transmission to the vessel. They may have answers about your origins." Zeryn's jaw tightened, a mix of hope and dread in their eyes. "Thank you, Mother, but my place is here with Sylis and Chloris." Sylis' tendril found theirs, a silent promise. "We'll face this together," she said, "whatever comes." At night in the Pulse Garden, Sylis and Zeryn stood under the triple sun's glow, the spores swirling around them like a protective chorus. "If the Driftborn vessel knows about my parents' mission," Zeryn said, their voice low, "it could change everything. Who I am, why I survived." Sylis' scales glowed softly, her amber eyes steady. "You're Xyren Vireth, my partner in every way that matters. Whatever you learn, it won't change that." Zeryn pulled her close, their foreheads touching. "You're my root, Sylis." "Always have been," the communicator at Zeryn's belt hummed, and a voice crackled through, a Driftborn voice, warm and unfamiliar. "This is Captain Vireth of the Starbloom Crest. We received your signal. Xyren, is that you?" Zeryn froze, their core pulsing faster. "Vera was my mother's name. How do you know me?" "Your parents were part of our expedition," Vireth said. "We thought you were lost in the crash. Your survival, it's a miracle. We need to meet. There's much you don't know." Sylis squeezed Zeryn's tendril. "We'll meet them together," she said. "But first we defend Chloris." Chapter 9. The Sylthar's approach. The next cycle was a blur of preparation. Sylvara's defenses hummed with activity, pulseweavers tuning the citadel's pulse shields while drones patrolled the Verdant Rift. Sylis and Zeryn trained relentlessly, their blades a synchronized dance as they prepared for the Sylthar's arrival. Their bond, now openly acknowledged, drew curious glances from the grove, but none dared question the heirs who had exposed the Xyren's treachery. In the war room, Lyra unveiled a new strategy. "The array's data suggests the Sylthar are drawn to pulse signatures," she said, her holographic map displaying their trajectory. "We can amplify our shields to lure them to a trap in the rift's core where the vines amplify our harmonics." "It's risky," Sylis said, her scales flickering. "If the trap fails, Sylvara is exposed." "Then we make sure it doesn't," Zeryn said, their citrine eyes fierce. "I've survived the rift. I know its rhythms. We can use them." Lyra nodded. "You two will lead the trap's activation. The Starbloom Crest has agreed to assist, deploying their pulse cannons to weaken the Sylthar." As the cycle progressed, the Starbloom Crest entered Chloris's orbit, its verdant hull a stark contrast to Sylvara's vine-woven spires. Captain Vireth, a tall Driftborn with silver-streaked scales and sharp green eyes, met Sylis and Zeryn in the Citadel's docking bay. Their gaze softened as it fell on Zeryn. "You look like Vera," they said, their voice thick with emotion. "Your mother was our lead pulse biologist. She believed Chloris's energies could disrupt biomechanical systems like the Sylthar." Zeryn's throat tightened. "What was their mission?" "To study Chloris's pulse," Vireth said. "They suspected it could destabilize biomechanical threats." "Your survival in the rift, your resistance to Thornwraith venom, it's no accident. They infused your sap with microspores, hoping you'd carry their work forward." Sylis' tendril tightened on Zeryn's. "Infused how?" "Symbiotic spores," Vireth said. "They enhance your adaptability, your immunity. It's why the Xyren wanted you. Your sap could weaponize their technology." Zeryn's silver veins seemed to pulse with new meaning. "Then let's use it against the Sylthar." The plan took shape. Sylis and Zeryn would infiltrate the rift's core, amplifying the pulse trap with Zeryn's spore-enhanced sap to disrupt the Sylthar's biomechanics. The Starbloom Crest would provide cover fire, while Sylvara's pulseweavers reinforced the Citadel's shields. As they prepared, Sylis pulled Zeryn aside in the Pulse Gardens. "If this goes wrong," she said, her voice low, "I need you to know I love you, Xyren, not just as a grove mate, but as my heart's pulse." Zeryn's citrine eyes softened, their tendril cupping her face. "I love you too, Sylis. You're my rhythm in this jungle. We'll make it through this together." Their kiss was fierce, a vow sealed in starlight. As they parted, the Citadel's alarms blared. The Sylthar had entered the system. Chapter 10. The Pulse of Defiance. The Verdant Rift's core was a maelstrom of light and sound, vines amplifying the pulse into a deafening crescendo. Sylis and Zeryn moved as one, their pulse blades cutting through Sylthar scouts, small biomechanical drones that swarmed like thorns. The main Sylthar fleet, a writhing mass of metallic tendrils and glowing cores, loomed closer, drawn by the trap's signal. Ready the amplifier, Sylis shouted over the hum, her scales blazing as she channeled pulse energy into the core's central vine. Xyren injected a vial of their sap into the system, the microspores interfacing with the pulse to create a disruptive wave. The Sylthar fleet faltered, their cores flickering as the wave hit. The Starbloom crest unleashed a barrage of pulse cannons, tearing through the weakened biomechanics. Sylis and Zeryn fought back-to-back, their blades ablur as they repelled scouts that broke through the chaos. "They're falling apart," Zeryn yelled, their silver veins glowing faintly as their spores synchronized with the pulse. "Don't let up," Sylis replied, her voice a harmonic command that echoed through the rift. A massive Sylthar construct, a towering amalgam of metal and crystal, broke through the swarm, its core pulsing with malevolent energy. Sylis and Zeryn exchanged a glance, their bond unspoken but unbreakable. They charged together, Sylis's pulseweaver harmonics destabilizing its structure while Zeryn's blade, infused with their spores, struck its core. The construct screamed, a sound that shook the vines, and collapsed in a shower of sparks. The remaining Sylthar scattered, their fleet crippled by the pulse trap in the Starbloom crest's assault. As the dust settled, Sylis and Zeryn stood panting, their tendrils clasped. "We did it," Sylis said, her scales glowing with triumph. "We did," Zeryn said, pulling her into an embrace. "You and me against the jungle." Chapter 11. A new Verdancy 1 cycle later, Sylvara's great hall brimmed with dignitaries from Chloris's groves. Verdant Lyra stood on the dais, her robes blazing with Vireth sigils. "Today we mark a new era," she proclaimed. "The Xyren threat is ended and the Sylthar are destroyed thanks to Sylis and Zeryn. The core Groves and Driftborn stand united." Captain Virel of the Starbloom crest stepped forward, their green eyes proud. "Xyren Vireth, you've honored your parents' legacy. Your spores were the key to our victory, and your courage has forged a bridge between our groves." Sylis and Zeryn stood together, their attire blending Coreborn and Driftborn symbols. Lyra raised a tendril. "As is our tradition, I name my heirs, Sylis my blood and Zeryn my ward. You shall rule jointly, uniting our groves in verdancy." The hall erupted in applause, the sound a new pulse for Chloris. Zeryn whispered to Sylis, "Not bad for a scavenger who got stung saving a grove heir." Sylis's amber eyes sparkled. "Not bad for an heir who found a Driftborn worth pulsing for." That night on their shared balcony, they stood under the triple sun's glow, the rift humming softly below. "7 cycles ago you saved me," Sylis said, nestled against Zeryn. "Now we've saved a world." "And found each other," Zeryn said, kissing her. "That's the true rhythm." In the archives, a new entry was woven. Henceforth, Grove Vireth bears the Driftborn mark alongside Chloris's pulse, honoring the one whose courage and sap forged a new verdancy. Chapter 12. Echoes of the Rift. As Chloris rebuilt, Sylis and Zeryn took their place as joint heirs, their leadership blending Coreborn pulse with Driftborn resilience. The Starbloom crest remained in orbit, its crew sharing knowledge to strengthen Sylvara's defenses. Zeryn's microspores became the foundation for new pulse technologies, ensuring Chloris's safety against future threats, but whispers persisted in the Verdant Rift. Scouts reported faint signals from the Nebula of Thorns, suggesting remnants of the Xyren fleet or a new threat stirring. Sylis and Zeryn, now inseparable, prepared to face whatever came, their bond a beacon in the jungle. "We'll weave our own pulse," Sylis said one evening, her scales glowing under the starlight. Zeryn's citrine eyes shone with resolve. "And it'll echo across the groves." Together, they turned to face the future, their tendrils entwined, ready to lead Chloris into a new era of verdancy and defiance.